Crypto prices slide as the market awaits next week's inauguration of Donald Trump. Will he deliver on his pro-crypto promises? We cover all this right now in the Collective Shift weekly recap, actionable insights, and a breakdown into the crypto market, all in under 30 minutes. It's me, Matt, just with you this week, going solo. We'll be back with Nick soon. But first things first, kicking off with a market update for the start of the year, and it has been a bit of red price action in all markets really, or stock markets in particular, as well as crypto. We've seen commodities actually increasing to start the year, which is I think partially why we have seen some risk on assets sliding, and I'll get into the macro side of things in a bit. But as I get my screen up here, we can see that Bitcoin is down by, at the time recording, about 8% for the week. Ethereum down 15%. Solana down similarly. Notably there, XRP, the exemption, up around 4 to 5% for the past 7 days. So what is happening? This really just stems from the Federal Reserve meeting that happened in the middle of December. So we were celebrating Bitcoin surpassing 100,000. It got up to about 108,000 US dollars. And at that time, it was around when Jerome Powell came out, the chair of the US central bank, and sort of came out a lot more hawkish than the market anticipated. In other words, just coming out saying that, hey, the US economy is going pretty strong right now. We don't really see us cutting as aggressively as what we previously anticipated. I think in particular, the US central bank said they anticipate 75 basis points worth of cuts throughout 2025. So, maybe 3 times they will come out with 25 basis points cuts, which is is less than what the market had previously been pricing in. This all matters for crypto because the lower the interest rates, in simple terms, the better. To put it briefly, we've talked about this a lot in recent years about why crypto, in particular, likes low interest rate environments. So any sign that that is not going to happen does spook crypto investors from time to time, and I think that is a big reason why people have started to take some profits in recent weeks, and why crypto has slid from around 108,000 US down to very briefly on some exchanges into 89,000 earlier this week, but now we are back up to around 94,000, 95,000 US dollars. So yeah, the outlook here, we've had some more confirmation in recent days with the meeting notes have been released from the Federal Reserve's meeting in December, and it really just confirms what a lot of people had, I suppose, read between the lines in terms of Jerome Powell's press conference. We've seen some confirmation that different members of the Federal Reserve Board discussed the upside risks to inflation had increased. In other words, inflation still isn't quite under control of where the Fed would like to see it, around that 2% long-term average. So in the Federal Reserve's perspective, why would we lower rates now when we are still not quite sure about whether inflation could ramp back up? So they cited concerns also with the incoming administration, that being the Trump administration. The Federal Reserve is a bit hesitant given the potential changes coming to trade and immigration policies, which Trump has been talking about. There's sort of unknown economic repercussions of those. In particular, how much, how hard will Trump go, for lack of a better term, in terms of his stance against protecting the US economy and enforcing really, I suppose, harsh tariffs, or will they be a bit lighter than he's been leading on? So the Federal Reserve here is sort of having no reason to sort of preempt that, and they would rather sit back and wait to see what these policies may be. So that's why I think Bitcoin in particular has been sliding, as well as all other cryptocurrency prices. Even most recently, to wrap things up here, the employment data in the US is also continues to look stronger than expected. So last week we got the latest job figures, which again came out, to put it simply, just portraying the conclusion was that the labor market in the US was healthier than the market had expected. So again, we've led to scenarios now where the likes of Goldman Sachs, as I get my screen up here for those watching on YouTube, Goldman Sachs is sort of cutting their expectations of how much the Fed will cut rates in 2025. The jobs report, as I just said, was hotter than expected late last week, which arguably is why we slid in terms of cryptocurrencies. why we slid over the weekend, just most recently. So yeah, that's really the story of where things are at in terms of the start of 2025. All of a sudden, we've got the market being a bit shaky. We've had a very significant run up in Q4, in particular for crypto. So we've seen some people taking profits, and still this uncertainty surrounding what exactly Donald Trump will do once he steps in and is inaugurated, which will be happening very shortly, which I'll get into soon. Another reason why Bitcoin in particular did slide last week was just some concerns around what's going on with the Bitcoin that the US government holds, and will they actually go ahead and sell that? There was some increased concerns last week that that was going to happen. In other words, there was a court case, or I suppose a document from the court, more or less authorizing that the US government could go ahead and sell a particular sort of stash of Bitcoin that it had confiscated. So again, it was not an order for the US government to go ahead and sell it. All the document said was that they now have permission to sell it. Important distinction there, as it got lost, I think, in the hysteria of people reacting to the headlines. However, this is a sizable amount, so nearly 70,000 Bitcoin there, which would be multiple billions, and would certainly have a market impact if it was sold particularly aggressively, similar to what we saw with Germany in the middle of last year. So this is why I think Bitcoin did have a bit of a more negative week last week. This was partially the reason. As I said, the economic news in particular was quite significant in dictating Bitcoin's price action. But really, people now with Donald Trump coming in about a week's time, people were speculating, hey, maybe this is one last parting blow from the Democratic Party to go ahead and sell this Bitcoin before Trump actually takes office. That was really sort of doing the rounds in terms of people speculating. At the time recording, the wallets associated or linked to this particular amount of Bitcoin has not moved. In other words, there's no signs that the authorities are going ahead and actually selling this Bitcoin. So that's where things are at the moment. Just a reminder for anyone listening, the US government controls or owns around 200,000 Bitcoin, which is slightly less than 1% of the overall supply. So they are one of the largest holders in the world of Bitcoin. A lot of that is, from my understanding, due to be redistributed back to affected parties, particularly in the case of Bitfinex, which accounts for around half of that 200,000 Bitcoin. And of course, there is speculation that Donald Trump will order that the US government to simply not redistribute that Bitcoin and to simply hold that 200,000. That was a big reason why Bitcoin's price went up late last year, as people got excited about this potential sell pressure sort of being removed from the market, and to a more extreme bullish scenario, the US government actually coming out and actively buying Bitcoin off the secondary market is the best case scenario for 2025, which we've talked about a lot on this podcast. So two distinct things there. But really getting into, I think, what everyone is sort of looking forward to is what Trump does in relation to this Bitcoin strategic reserve. So I'll get into that soon. Just wrapping up the headlines from the past 7 days. We have MicroStrategy actually confirming they have bought for the 10th consecutive week. So purchasing 2,530 Bitcoin. So around $250 million US there spent by MicroStrategy. So these purchase sizes are getting, quite a bit smaller than what they have. But to have that string of 10 consecutive weeks, it makes you wonder where the price would be if we didn't have that buy side support from the likes of MicroStrategy. So I think recently over the New Year break, Michael Saylor confirmed that MicroStrategy were continuing to seek raising capital through selling stocks and also taking out loans as part of their $42 billion buying plan, or $42 billion, I suppose, plan to purchase Bitcoin over what was a 3-year period. They're already out of that 42 billion over 3 years. They are already, from my understanding, about 15 or so billion of their way through that 42 billion. But we're only 2-3 months into that 3-year maximum period. So that is still a big narrative and story you'll see throughout 2025. I have no doubt about that. In other words, you'll continue to see headlines that MicroStrategy is purchasing Bitcoin throughout 2025. It may not happen every single week like what we're seeing here, but yeah, you can guarantee that those purchases will continue to come through. And now, of course, as we've been saying throughout 2024, a really big theme was other companies as well starting to get involved with purchasing and accumulating Bitcoin. Microplanets over in Japan, I believe is the name of the company there, is doing a similar thing to MicroStrategy. They're almost nicknamed the MicroStrategy of Japan. They're doing things at a much smaller scale, but you're seeing different companies around the world adopt this corporate, I guess, strategy in a way of purchasing some Bitcoin, not going all in, of course, but diversifying their balance sheet. So, okay, let's get into the main, I think, talking point of this particular podcast. And here we are, about a week ahead of Trump's inauguration, and it's undoubtedly the most important event that will be happening in January for global markets, absolutely. But I think for the sake of this podcast, we'll focus entirely on the crypto space. And we may just go back ahead and just recap a bit, what did Trump actually promise? So yeah, for those unaware, January 20th is when Donald Trump will formally or officially become the US president. So that transition is complete. JD Vance will also be sworn in as the vice president. And really, we have the crypto market now hoping that Donald Trump will follow through with a lot of the promises that he did share with the crypto industry in an effort to win their votes throughout July, August, September last year. He has promised a lot of other things in the non-crypto areas as well. So it'll be interesting to see where crypto lies on the priority list in that opening few days of the Trump administration. And just for a reminder for everyone, what has he actually promised just in the crypto space? There would be at least 5 things from my recollection. And there would be dozens of other promises that he's shared with other industries that he is been saying that he will do on the opening few days of his administration. So from my perspective, I'm very, I don't know, I just can't imagine a scenario where he's actually able to physically order all of these things in the opening few days, 50 to 100 different executive orders or different announcements. But hey, maybe that is possible. But hopefully for Bitcoin and crypto, he can deliver on these promises. I think one off the top of my head was freeing Ross Ulbright from prison, his lifetime sentence, ties to the Silk Road, and that's been a big thing the crypto community has been sort of advocating for. Another one that's more relevant for the markets was just any more information about Trump's plans for the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve would be highly sought after by the market. He has been quite vague, or he was quite vague on what he actually meant by creating a stockpile of Bitcoin. Is he just going to order the US Marshals or the US government to really just continue to hold the Bitcoin that they currently own, so around 200,000 or so? Or is he going to actually, in addition to that, maybe do an executive order? The best case scenario would be Trump issuing an executive order where he orders the Bitcoin to be purchased off the open market. Some people are questioning the legality of that. So there's still a lot to come out in the wash about whether these things are actually sufficient or legally. I guess it sort of dots the I's and crosses the T's sort of thing. But we will see what happens, I suppose, early next week. One other promise that Trump has made, for those who may have forgotten from last year, was just in general to make the US a real stronghold of the crypto industry globally. Right now, you've seen this trend of companies and founders actually leaving the US and getting set up in other areas of the world from a corporate standpoint, just because they don't want to run the risk of maybe being prosecuted by the US, a lot of uncertainty. So again, Trump really has positioned himself as being the president who, I guess, really makes the US now a lot more pro-crypto and actually inviting and really promoting innovation and, I guess, entrepreneurs to get set up in the US and drive crypto forward. And also we'll see what Trump does in relation to SAB 121. And we have seen news just in the past few minutes out of the Washington Post reporting that Trump plans to issue executive orders on his first day, so importantly there, as president, that will address the debanking issues in the crypto space, as well as, hopefully repealing SAB 121, which we've, talked about a lot in the past, 1 to 2 years. Essentially, in very simple terms, SAB 121 is a rule that makes it commercially unviable for banks to launch their own custody services in relation to cryptocurrencies. So banks in the US, if they were going to support cryptocurrencies or help, custody them with this SAB 121 rule, they have to, have a lot of liabilities to support those crypto holdings, which makes it commercially unviable. If a bank in no circumstance would do crypto custody if this SAB 121 rule is in place, which it has been in recent years. So Trump, in this report from Washington Post, maybe planning to repeal that on day one, which is something he more or less has alluded to in the past. So again, we just really want to see, as a market, I suppose, and an industry, Trump actually go ahead and execute on his promises. In hopefully opening day would be ideal, but even in the first week or 2 weeks of him in office, to get any information about the outlook for crypto would be excellent. And in my expectation, I would, depending on the nature of the details, the devil's in the details, as they say, I would expect crypto prices to really react strongly to whatever information comes out from Trump in the next week or so, or the next 1 to sort of 2 weeks. So there's really no point talking about anything else for the sake of this podcast. To be as honest, to be honest, there's nothing else that will be affecting prices in the short term. Medium term, of course, you've got the economic data and of what I just said at the top of this episode. And then just to finish off with Trump, we've got him. We've got a crypto ball in Washington, which Trump and JD Vance will be attending. That is actually that's at the end of this week, US time. That is on January the 17th. You got a lot of sponsors here, Coinbase, I believe, Kraken, as you can see on the screen there, Sui. So it's great to see, I suppose, crypto industry having a presence, and maybe Trump will allude to some, he might expand on some information about what he will actually do once he is in office. So that could be a good way to get some new information rather than waiting for, I guess, once he's actually in office. So we'll see what happens there on January the 17th as well. In terms of altcoin updates for the past week, this time, unsurprisingly, is a very, very quiet time of the year for, just any market really, but crypto, of course, is one of those. So altcoin updates there really has not been too much in terms of any, serious, meaningful sort of upgrades to certain protocols or any announcements in general. One thing I did want to highlight was that Sui did hit an all-time high in the past week or so. It has since retraced, along with the whole market, but it did get up to around $5.40 in US dollars, that is, last week. So that's one that just has a lot of upcoming catalysts. I know Walrus, the protocol being developed by Miston Labs, I wouldn't be surprised if Sui stakers were able to, maybe get some bonus or some incentive thrown their way from Walrus, as we've talked about previously. And of course, Sui just, has all the momentum behind it in terms of being a competitor to Solana as we kick off 2025. Another strong performer in the market recently has been Ripple or XRP. As I said at the top of this podcast episode, XRP is up around 5% for the past week, while all other majors are down. I think a big reason why it performed well in recent days has been CEO of Ripple, Brad Garlinghouse, sharing a photo of him at a dinner with Donald Trump, and also the chief legal officer of Ripple as well attending there. This was a similar, I think, sort of price appreciation that you saw with Cardano late last year when Charles Hoskinson alluded to, being a part of Trump's advisory team for cryptocurrency related matters, and people speculating that this will be the case here for XRP. So that, from what I could see, that was the main reason for the price performance of XRP lately, and that again is now number 3. It's a number 3 ranked cryptocurrency by market cap, which again, early last year, I think it was about 7th or 8th. So continued growth by XRP has been notable at the start of 2025. In terms of looking ahead, honestly, I don't really want to waste your time. Like, it's all about Inauguration Day. And hey, with that link I shared as well, with the event coming up on January 17th, we may get some information about what Trump may or may not do once he's president. But really, all eyes are on Inauguration Day, and expect a lot of volatility around that day for crypto and global markets more broadly. I think we do have some economic data coming up as well. Inflation data coming out this week, importantly. And we also have the next Federal Reserve meeting at the end of this month. So January 29th will be when the decision is shared, and Jerome Powell sort of has his press conference. So, but yeah, before then, Inauguration Day is by far the most important thing. In terms of rapid fire, like overappreciated or underappreciated, I would like to give a shout out here. So I would say underappreciated is a website I found in recent days called GoatIndex AI, and that has it's essentially an aggregator from my understanding, and they've actually, the reason why I've flagged it as underrated is they've actually indexed all the participating projects in the Solana AI hackathon, and given them all their metadata and all of their GitHub activity and whatnot. So it could be a really powerful research tool for yourself if you're interested to go through some of the upcoming projects that may be coming out on Solana that are in the AI sector, which I expect will be the leading sector again in 2025, as it was in 2024, for reasons we've discussed ad nauseum, really. So yeah, check that out. That's GoatIndex.ai. I don't really know the team who made it or anything. It's just one that I want to give a shout out as we get underway. I'll also share this link. Speaking of the Solana AI hackathon, this user here actually went ahead and researched some of the prize winners, and went through and identified ones that don't have a token, ones that might have a token in the near term future. So that's one I'll share as well. But again, if you're not interested in those early stage projects, this one wouldn't be for you. But hey, just thought I'd do something different, given we're a bit quiet at this time, starting off the year. But until then, all eyes will be at the start of next week, and we'll be back with probably a breakdown of how Inauguration Day went. But until then, that is a wrap. And if you are looking for more insights, see our revamped weekly Shift newsletter, providing free weekly market insights every Friday. Subscribe at collectiveshift.io/newsletter. That's collectiveshift.io/newsletter.